Madam Chair, we are streaming live and recording on YouTube. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to June 25th, 2025 Community Advisory Committee meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. My name is Nalissa Council. I am the chair of the CAC, and I would like to ask Mr. Coleman if he would please lead us in the Pledge of the Allegiance.
Good to see you, Mr. Coleman. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. I want to remind all members that this meeting and all future CAC meetings are held in person, and it is important for all members to be here in order for us to have a quorum. Members of the public are still able to participate virtually, and we encourage them to do so. I'd like to also ask the members to please turn on your microphones before speaking and deactivate after your remarks. This will help us ensure that everyone is able to be heard by those in the room and online. At the June 11th Metro Plan Orlando Board meeting, I told the board that we welcome 2 new members in May. I also relayed some of our feelings about I also relayed some of our feelings about road widening and transit in upcoming transportation improvement program. And today we have 2 additional new members representing Seminole County. I want to welcome Jesse Phillips and Lucas Ferrer.
I believe only Mr. Phillips is with us at the moment. This is Mr. Phillips over here.
Hi, Jesse. Thank you for being here today.
I'm gonna ask him to.
I would like for Mr. Jesse to introduce yourself, please.
Let's see if I can figure out the technology. Hi, I'm Jesse Phillips. I'm from Seminole County. I live in the city of Winter Springs with my beautiful wife and 4 kids, 3 of which are teenagers, 2 of which are driving. Sometimes my car. So we're contributing to our transportation system in that way. No, but happy to be here. I was honored to be appointed by Chairman Zembauer of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners, who asked me to serve in this way, and I'm happy to jump in and serve on this board with you fine folks. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to everyone who is with us today in the room and online. We appreciate your being here. I want to add my welcome to our new members from Seminole County and also let you know that we are working with Osceola County to fill a vacancy there created by the resignation of Mr. Daniel Lopez. I want you to please note for your calendars, although we're giving you good advance notice here, our MTP public meeting. You will be hearing a lot more about this, especially when we get together again in August. I'm hoping that you can put it on your calendars now. It is the evening of September 29th at the Orange County Multicultural Center in Pine Hills. And this will be our very best chance to look at the cost feasible plan in a number of platforms. You will have, of course, had your committee update on that, but the public will be there and it will be sort of presented in another format, and we would love to have you all there. I wanted to give you a heads up that the Metro Plan Orlando office will be closed Friday, July 4th in observance of Independence Day. And I wanted to apologize. We had several questions during last month's presentation on the Transportation Improvement Program. And we do have more information to share with you. And I apologize that I was not able to get that out to you before the meeting. We will send it out as an FYI immediately after today's meeting. But in the meantime, Mr. Sartorio will be before you again today, and he is prepared to address the issues that you brought up last time. So if you want to re-ask your questions, he can work with you on that. And otherwise, we will send out the sheet to remind you of some of the questions that were raised in the preview of the TIP. Well, it is summer, school is out, and our safety moment addresses teen driving, Mr. Phillips. Thank goodness you made it here just in time for this. So we're going to hear from Ms. Adriana Rodriguez, I believe. Yes. Take it away.
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. Again, as Marianne mentioned, the safety moment for this month is about teen drivers. Crash numbers indicate that teen driver fatalities have increased 10% from pre-COVID. Crash trends show a significant jump of fatalities and serious injuries involving teen drivers due to speeding and aggressive driving, as well as not wearing a seatbelt. According to the FDOT Teen Safe Driving Coalition, the county within Florida, the county with the most serious injuries involving teen drivers is Orange County. Efforts to address the factors that affect teen drivers include the new law for first-time drivers in Florida that requires teens aged 15 to 17 to complete a state-approved driver's education course before obtaining their learner's permit. Previously, teens only needed to complete a traffic law and substance abuse education course. Other efforts by the FDOT Teen Safe Driving Coalition include education campaigns targeting high schoolers, and also they are mailing this safe driving guide to parents of teens that recently obtained their learner's permit. Other important resource that looks at, and the purpose of this is to improve safety for teen drivers, is the Florida Sheriff's Association Teen Driver Challenge. This is a program offered in 42 counties across the state. This program is not intended to replace the driver's education course. It is intended to improve teen drivers' skills and confidence, ultimately reducing crash risks. The program combines classroom instruction with practical driving exercises, focusing on techniques such as evasive maneuvers, emergency braking, and cornering. This course is open to drivers between the ages of 15 and 19 that have held a Florida learner's permit or an operator's license for at least 6 months. This program has no cost to eligible teens. It is also taught by certified experienced instructors from the Florida Sheriff's Association. And it has a great benefit related to some insurances, providing discounts for teens who complete the program. I want to share that recently my 17-year-old son completed this program. He was not very happy about the idea of participating in such a program on an early Saturday morning. However, at the end of the day, he was excited about the skills and the driving techniques that he learned. He mentioned that he found the practice exercises very relevant, fun, because they were able to practice the driving techniques that they learned during the classroom portion. He also mentioned that this was a positive interaction with law enforcement, which is also great. Now we're going to watch a short video providing more details about the program.
Let's face it, driving in Orlando can be scary, even more so if you're new behind the wheel. That's why the Orange County Sheriff's Office has a class designed for teen drivers to get them more comfortable on the road.
The Sheriff's Office, in partnership with the Florida Sheriff's Association, recently launched the Teen Driver Challenge in Orange County.
It's a program that's designed to assist teen drivers with learning a little more about responsible driving, defensive driving, good driving habits and practices that'll help keep them alive on the road.
The course, which is open to drivers between ages 15 and 19, is a mix of classroom learning and hands-on experience. The goal? Reducing the chances of teens being involved in a crash.
Kids love getting their permit and then they get their car and their freedom. It's fun, but at the same time, we want you to be safe, we want you to be smart, and always keep your eyes on the road.
The 8-hour course starts in the classroom, where the teens first learn the do's and don'ts of staying safe on the road. Then it's outside, where instructors walk the teens around the vehicles, letting them check the tire pressure and inspect what's under the hood.
That 4,000-pound vehicle that they're driving can become a very dangerous object if they don't care for it the way they should.
Now that the cars are checked, the teens are brought out here to the driving pad, and they're paired with a certified driving instructor.
Teens get to test their driving skills, cornering, backing up, emergency braking, and skid recovery.
You get to make the mistakes that you usually wouldn't be able to, and then figure out how you would get out of those situations. So that's pretty cool.
The teens aren't graded on their skills, so there's no failing this course, but they are provided feedback and given tips on how to be better drivers.
It gives us an opportunity to show them some good habits and keep the community safe and keep our teens safe, which in turn keeps the road safer and all the committee members as well.
To get more information on the Teen Driver Challenge, including how to sign up for the course, go to ocso.com/teendriver.
Oh, and in case you were wondering, there is no parallel parking test. For the Orange County Sheriff's Office, I'm John Busdecker.
Again, this program is offered across the state, 42 counties. So it's similar to Orange County, but it's offered in other counties as well. With that, I will take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. I love the program. I have too many family members. Love the fact that, they're out here, and especially the area I'm from, which is Ponciana. You have a lot of new drivers over there, and we've had a lot of crashes. So I truly appreciate something like this. I'm going to start the questions with Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, and thank you very much for that presentation. How long has the program been going on?
That program, right here in my notes, it started in, no, I don't have the information right now here, but I will.
I'm very happy to hear that they have the program. But I want to add that, almost every insurance company now has a program of some sort. Maybe not as extensive as this, but there's opportunity for teen drivers to learn the basics of what they really need to know. As parents of teen drivers, make sure when they leave the house, they have the seatbelt on. Okay. What is the number one cause, in your opinion, with teen drivers?
Distractions.
Distractions, and another contributor is speed. The inexperience, the reaction time is less. So when they're speeding or driving too fast for the situation, they can't make a correction in time. So that is number one. I would say to anyone that has teen drivers out there, when they leave the house, make sure the seatbelt's on. Constantly talk to them about speed. But thank you. The program, I think, is fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson.
I feel awkward jumping in front of others that had their placards up, but regardless, parallel parking should still be taught. I'm sorry. When I got my license, I flunked the first time because I could not parallel park my car. And I had to come back. And my poor dad, I can parallel park anything now, I promise you. Also, you might want to look into, just an FYI for the group, I know when you take these kind of courses, whether it's your children or yourself, you might look into possibly getting a discount on your insurance. See if they offer that. Just an FYI.
No problem, because both the last speaker just addressed the question that I was thinking about insurance. And do they receive a discount for
Yes,
participating in this program?
yes, some insurance provide a discount, some insurance companies.
Okay.
Unfortunately, not all, but some do.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellent information. You mentioned that it's in 42 counties right now. Are we looking at, is there a discussion for the other counties? I know there's 67 counties. Are the others looking to come on board soon?
That I don't have the information. We will need to find out from the Florida Sheriff's Association. In what are the plans to expand the program? So we can look into that.
Is it something that they pitch to the various counties and invite them to participate in it, or is this strictly selective as to whether they want to participate or not?
Well, from the list that's published in the Florida Sheriff's Association site, and I check correlating those to the latest information in the FDOT Safe Teen Driving Coalition. They recently published the information about those counties with the highest numbers of fatalities, serious injuries involving teenage drivers. And those counties are already have this program.
They do, okay.
So it could be that those others that don't have don't have a high number of these fatalities and serious injuries, they may not be on board with the program. I'm not sure, but I know that those that are showing a high number of these issues with teens are already involved in the program.
Okay, thank you. And just intuitive presentation, great presentation. I appreciate that. Just completely alarmed with the notion that, well, with the data that reflects that it's higher after COVID. What is that all about?
Yes, unfortunately, that's what we are seeing. That's what the crash trends are showing. It has increased. And again, it is mostly associated with speeding and aggressive driving, as well as not wearing a seatbelt.
But was that the data before pre-COVID that the highest factors were because of speed and because of distraction? So weren't those still the top 2-ish or top 3? But yet after COVID, it's higher. I just don't understand that part of it. And I know the data are what the data are, but I'm just curious as to, such a spike. Were they just anxious to get back to driving or something? Just why?
Yes, I mean, it is pre-COVID, 7% of the fatalities, 7% of the fatalities and serious injuries involving teen drivers it was 7%. Now it increased by 10%. So again, with the seatbelt, we also notice an increase from 8% to 14%.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That concludes my comments and questions.
No, there is another question.
Good morning, and thank you again for your presentation. Following on Ms. Mark's question, I think we haven't, as a community, really addressed some of the gaps that arose after COVID. And when we talk about expansion, I love this program. I think this is a necessary program. From where I come from, Pine Hills, we definitely need it. But I would hope that maybe somewhere down the line, when we have a little bit more research, when we have a little bit more proof of concept, we can expand it beyond just that tight window. Because, not just for our teen drivers, there was a whole generation that came of age during COVID. And when they came on the road, it was kind of like, okay, well, we're outside now. You know what I'm saying? But there's also older drivers that I think would also benefit from this as well. So I hope that maybe down the line, we can revisit this. Thank you again for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Ms. Rodriguez, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And
Morning, Madam Chair, CAC members. I just have one brief announcement for you this morning. It's another opportunity to get involved. The department will be holding our public hearing for the project development and environment study for US 1792, evaluating alternatives to widen the existing 2-lane roadway to a 4-lane roadway, and that's going to take place on Thursday, June 26th, so tomorrow night. This will be an in-person public hearing. The meeting will begin at 5:30 at Miracle Springs Church. That's at 5646 South Orange Blossom Trail in Intercession City. You can also find a map of the hearing location on CFL Roads under the Get Involved tab. So if you're right on the front page, there's a Get Involved tab there now, and that'll also show future public hearings if you're looking to attend. So of note for this project, it is currently number 4 on Metro Plan's prioritized project list under the state highway system and state road projects. So I want to provide that information, and again, another opportunity to get involved. And pending questions, that concludes my announcement this morning.
Thank you so much. Well, could you give us that address again?
Yes. That is at the Miracle Springs Church on 5646 South Orange Blossom Trail in Intercession City.
Thank you so much.
Hi there.
Mr. Nadeem.
Where on 1792 is the widening project slated for?
So the limits of this project are it begins at Ivy Mist Lane and it ends in Avenue A, and that's in Osseo County, as you know. But the project is approximately 3.8 miles long and extends through Point Siena and Intercession City. Yeah.
Are there any more questions? Did I miss any? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right. We will now hear public comments on the action items. We ask that you provide your name, address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the public wish to comment and is joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized. If you are joining us using your phone only, please dial *9 and your phone on your phone keypad and you will be recognized. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
There are no hands raised online, Madam Chair.
Do we have any members in the public attending in person who wish to make a public comment?
No comments received.
Thank you so much.
And Madam Chair, if I may, we need to do roll call.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. If members can please remember to use their microphone. Bankalari? Present. Butler?
Present.
Bolton?
Here.
Campbell?
Present.
Coleman?
Here.
Council?
Present.
El Badri?
Present.
Fortune?
Present.
Pravola?
Present.
Garcia Paniagua?
Present.
Heath?
Present.
Thank you. Mott?
Present.
Mueller?
Present.
Negron? O'Hanlon?
Here.
Phillips?
Here.
Pigram? Pizzo?
Present.
Rum? Salah? Here. Saltos?
Present.
Webster?
Present.
West? White?
Present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone being here today. Okay, so since we already asked public comments, okay, you got it. At this time, we will move to the action items. We have 3 action items today, and additional information is available in your full agendas. The first item on your agenda will be approval of the minutes from May 28, 2025 at our CAC meeting. Can I get an approval?
So moved, Jeffrey Campbell.
I second, Judy Pizzo.
Thank you so much. We have a first and a second. Are there any questions or corrections to these minutes? There is a motion for approval. And there is also a second. We have, this is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All, any opposed, say nay. None being nay, the motion passes. Our next item concerns approval of the Transportation Improvement Program. Mr. Jason Santerio will present the information. Good morning, Jason. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. This morning, I'll be presenting the fiscal year 2026, the fiscal year 2030 Transportation Improvement, or TIP, draft for adoption. And you'll find some additional information in section 2 of your agenda packets. So the purpose of the TIP is to identify all federal and state funded transportation projects for the next 5 years in our region. This includes locally funded and Central Florida Expressway projects for informational purposes and to show a complete picture of transportation-related spending throughout the region. And the TIP is updated annually in July and is consistent with the adopted prioritized project list, which was adopted last year in July of 2024. The TIP is broken down into several sections that are identified on the right side of the screen. On the left side of the screen, you can see the different project categories for the TIP. Each project category has its own section within the TIP and its own project list. And the TIP also includes an abbreviation and acronym guide, as well as a systems performance report. And within the TIP, we have a total of 552 projects with approximately $11.7 billion in funding. As you can see, we have a lot going on in the region over the next 5 years. Within the TIP, we have a total of 271 federal, state, or turnpike funded projects. That comes out to approximately $5.5 billion in funding over the next 5 years. And this does not include the $1.3 billion in local funds that our partner agencies contribute to projects. And this also does not include the projects submitted by our partner agencies for informational purposes only. And the pie chart on the screen breaks this down by funding by the sections of the TIP. And it should be noted that the I-4 funding, I believe last time we brought up that it includes 49% of the pie chart. That includes the $2 billion in discretionary funding that our region received as part of the governor's Moving Florida Forward initiative. Within the TIP, we have a total of 39 projects that are prioritized and funded by Metro Plan Orlando using our Transportation Management Agency, or TMA funds. This comes to approximately $145 million in funding over the next 5 years. And this does not include the $31 million in TMA funding that we added to 3 state highway projects in order to help the state balance the work program. And that was an amendment that came in front of you earlier this year. The table displayed breaks these down by category between transit capital, complete streets, bicycle and pedestrian, and transportation systems management and operations, or TISMO. So since the last time I came in front of you, we've made a few minor changes to the TIP. So we received the CFX 5-year work plan, which added 168 projects to the TIP, approximately $4.5 billion in funding. And as I mentioned earlier, the CFX work plan is just in there for informational purposes. Also, at the request of the City of Castleberry, we updated the managing agency for Winter Park Drive Complete Street Phase 1. At the request of the City of Kissimmee, we updated the management agency for the Connect Kissimmee Complete Street Phase 2. At the request of Osceola County, we added 3 additional partner-funded projects, which, as I mentioned, are for informational purposes only. And we also revised the name of another partner-funded project submitted by Osceola County. And finally, at the request of Orange County, we added in 1 additional partner-funded project. So while the public comment period is still open until July 7th, we do have a summary of some comments we have received to date. We received feedback regarding Sunrail expansion, funding for the Shingle Creek Trail, signage for slower drivers to move over, and regarding the convenience of Lynx transportation services for senior citizens. Additionally, we received several comments regarding prioritizing and advancing projects along Mitchell Hammock Road in Oviedo. And we also received a suggestion to conduct a study on the feasibility of a light rail project in the Mitchell Hammock Road Center Median. To date, we have hosted 2 virtual Ask a Planner sessions, as well as our TIP open house, which we had at the Seminole County Library branch in Oviedo. We have received some great public feedback through these events, including the following. So we received feedback on the State Road 50 widening project in East Orange County that is much needed. There's also a real desire to reduce traffic congestion through increased public transportation and the expansion of Sunrail locally, as well as Brightline to Tampa. There's a desire for safety for all users, especially bicycle and pedestrians, as well as new drivers. And we also received feedback that there should be wider sidewalks on Mitchell Hammock Road in Oviedo. And just as a reminder to everyone, we do have one additional TIP virtual Ask a Planner session, and that will be next Monday, June 30th from noon to 1 o'clock. And the link to that is on the MetroPlan Orlando website calendar, as well as the TIP webpage. So as I mentioned earlier, you have some additional information on this action in section 2 of your packets. With that being said, unless there are any questions, we are asking for your recommendation of approval.
Move approval.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would you please go back to your first pie chart?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. So looking at the percentages and your previous presentation last month, this was brought up. I guesstimated here that about 84% of this funding is going to roads, highways, turnpike, and I-4, when the need is really for transit opportunities, public transportation and safety. And I loved the suggestions that you got from the public. Those were very well thought out. And I do hope that those are given further consideration. That being said, I just wanted to go on record that 84% of the funding is going back to roads, highways, turnpike, and I-4, as a previous board member last month had asked innocently, is I-4 never done? Apparently not. So I just wish that the powers that be that shovel the money around would consider more transit opportunities for people. And that's it. That's being said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Hanlon?
Technology is advancing so fast, it makes your head spin. I have had some meetings now with Tesla. Unfortunately, I'm under an NDA, so I can't discuss that information. But it's mind-boggling how fast things are going to change. And you know, I'm always been totally against the future plans. And this is just the next 5 years. But unfortunately, even this at 5 years, things are going to be so different in 3 or 4 years that we'll have to make probably major amendments to this plan. I don't know what they are, so I will vote to approve it. But it's just amazing. Is roads versus public transportation. Do we have that information?
Are you talking funding breakdown or just?
No, not funding breakdown, actual use of roads versus use of public transportation. Is it close to that 84-16, or is it more like 98-2? I'm just trying to get a sense of, are we actually putting the dollars to where people are using it, or are we trying to put more money to multimodal transportation versus roads?
So I can start to answer. I know Lynx comes every month to our board meeting and kind of gives us an idea of their ridership numbers, monthly ridership numbers. So I don't think we can, at this point in time, I can't off the top of my head give you an exact breakdown, but I can track that information down from last board meeting and give you an idea of their riderships. As far as roadways, are just
Would
gonna
you
be
say
difficult.
it's 95% are using the roadways and 5% are using public transportation? Is it 80-20? Is it 60-40? Just ballpark, what's that number look like?
Yeah, let me give you some ballparks. And some of this is a chicken egg farmer discussion as well. I want to caveat my remarks with kind of the current snapshot and historic as it relates to transit. As you look at total trips, or what we refer to as mode split, how many people are driving their car, how many people are using, a bike or walking to work, how many people are using transit. About 3 to 4% of our region's trips, home-based work trips, are utilized via transit. Why? Some of that is circumstance, built environment, the infrastructure and services that are available to them. You reap what you sow in some regard. But that answers your question directly. Currently, and over the past 5 years, and this is collected by the United States Census Bureau via the American Community Survey. So it's a sample set of our region on answering that question of how they get to work, about 3 to 4%. And that's pretty consistent for the state of Florida as well, even in more densely populated, mature metropolitan areas like Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville. You're still seeing that less than 5% of all trips. So hope that answers your question.
It does. So
much of the funds here are also formulaic in the sense that like the transit funds that you see in the transportation improvement program are based on service provided. So Lynx, for instance, they collect, how many riders, how many trips, how many boardings, alighting, how many people are transferring. They report that back to the federal government through what's called the National Transit Database. And federal transit funds are allocated based on that performance, the consumption, and what's actually delivered out there. So like I said, it's a chicken and egg relationship, but some of that, requires the farmer as well.
Okay,
I'll
so
leave
if
it there.
97% of trips are happening on roads and we're putting 84% of the money towards roads, then we're really 5x putting dollars towards public transportation, even though only 3% of the ridership is occurring there. Let me ask you this, if the public transportation is robust, let's take Chicago, New York, Boston as an example, what percentage of ridership occurs on public transportation in those cities where you do have the option to not drive your car, but to get on public transportation?
Not to follow up with you, I don't want to throw out, the 300 other metropolitan areas. We'll come back with some research kind of showing that. It's also important to look at sister city comparisons. When you look at, built environments that were built on, on the carriage approach, you're seeing densification in those areas. Florida, Central Florida, there's books, Suburban Nation, so we're built around the automobile. So some of our culture and how we travel is developed based on that. But like I said, that's a snapshot in time, and that's how the money's currently allocated, and that's what's being recommended for approval. I do just want to put a point of order. We do have a motion on the floor. I'm not sure if we have a second. So I just want to make sure as we continue discussion, it's with a motion hanging out there.
Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you so much. All in favor?
No, we didn't need a vote. We just need
discussion.
Yes.
I'm not even sure what the motion was.
Neither.
It hopped in before the chair even asked for a motion. And I think this discussion
thank you,
is
Ms.
based
West.
somewhere else, so I'm
yes,
I'm
thank you.
thinking that vote was not
No, we should not have taken a vote. Thank you, Ms. Webster. You're correct. As I understand the situation, and Ms. Whittington all that was needed was that we should not have continued discussion without that second being in place. The motion was what Mr. Sartorio asked for, a recommendation, as we always do, to recommend approval for this to the Metro Plan Orlando Board. That was routine. The only thing that was not routine was that it was not followed with a second. And so before we began to discuss it, we just need a second. And then our chair can call for discussion, and then we will go. We were just all eager to talk about this, and we got a little ahead of ourselves, but I believe we can go ahead now, correct? We have our second and continue discussion as normal. And after discussion, then Madam Chair will call for a vote on that recommendation to the board. After we finish the discussion, we will continue our discussion.
Make the motion.
Mr. O'Hanlon made the motion, Mr. Botland made the second. The motion had not actually been called for. I think that's where we got ahead of ourselves, but we're good now.
Question, Chair.
Can she go with her question now?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Yes.
Question, Chair.
Discussion.
Didn't we already, we voted, so do we have to reverse that or something? I mean, how does that work? Didn't we all raise our hand and say aye?
Not everybody did, because there was a motion on the floor and all we needed was a second. So there was no aye in place of all of us voting
Never
together.
said that. We have not voted. Some people spoke out.
We haven't voted. There was a motion and there was a second.
Fine.
Okay.
Continue discussion.
Okay, so we will continue discussion. Ms. Salas?
All I wanted to find out is that with the changes that Seminole County was doing, which is stopping their links program and starting this new program, are those trips in the car obviously going to be reported through links, going to be under that umbrella of public transit as opposed to car trips and road? I mean, it's going to be kind of a interesting switch if that works. And
I'm gonna bring Alex back up.
okay.
Or Sarah.
Yeah, I'm gonna punt this one to Seminole County. On staff, I will say, the Seminole County Public Works Director did just present the very topic to our Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board in detail, talking about what the service would be, and what that looks like to Seminole County residents, how they'll access transit moving forward. So I don't want to misspeak as it relates to kind of their service, the operation, what the impacts are. But as I understand it, they will be testing a pilot coming this fall, running in parallel to existing Lynx service. Following that pilot, they'll then reconsider and potentially remove some elements of the Lynx fixed route service within the county and replace that with what they're referring to as micro transit. So some type of carpool type app service to provide those transit trips to existing Seminole County transit riders. Trunk service or mainline service on arterial roads that are providing regional services, from my understanding, will remain. But that's something that's being explored, looking at the performance of the transit system, finding efficiencies and exploring innovative opportunities to provide high quality transit trips. So the jury's not out yet, and that's kind of part of what Seminole County is exploring, is testing this new approach. But we'll keep you posted as we know more, and that's about all I know. And
Yeah, but the
I'll
monies will
share.
go up under, instead of car trips, we're gonna look at them as transit trips in a way. But
I would still
highway-
classify those as transit trips. You know,
Yeah.
the vehicle is changing, instead of being, a large, transit vehicle, it's going to a more pool, smaller, what you might refer to as a typical automobile, but it's still a pooling approach. When you look at the model that they're looking at, it's not one car per passenger. It's a carpool type approach. Yeah. But I would, we all, as I mentioned before, there was a presentation to our Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. Those meetings are recorded, available on our website if you want to learn a little bit more. But also Seminole County is receiving regular presentations at their county commission meetings, where they're going into a lot more detail about what this may mean. Stay tuned for more.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Thanks for the presentation. And maybe I'm presenting this to the wrong group, but just quickly, late 1970s, early 1980s, I worked on the Space Center just before the Space Shuttle disaster. After that happened, All I wanted was a job from Mondays through Friday, 8 to 5 on the bus route. I got tired of commuting back to the Space Center. I found the job Mondays through Friday, 8 to 5 on the bus route. What I'm saying is that there is an opportunity for people to use the bus if they have more frequent riders. No, I'm saying that wrong. More riders would ride the bus if there was more frequent opportunity to ride the bus. I still ride the bus today. I drive, but there's opportunity when I can ride the bus. I ride the bus, the transit, link transit. And in Pine Hills, that bus is packed. And also, I'm addressing to the wrong person, but we need to put more money in this public transportation, what I'm getting at, because research has shown that unemployment is contributed to the lack of getting back and forth to work. Everybody doesn't drive or have a car. So we need to really be looking into how to invest in providing efficient, timely public transportation for those that need public transportation. And I would applaud any of you all, ride the Links bus sometime and get a feeling of what those riders go through. I do it just because I need to see feel what it's be like to be in that sector of people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. I think I'm behind this chair, so I moved it over here so you could see me. Sorry, let me turn that on. Hi, thank you for your presentation. I have just a quick question do we look at the difference between residents and tourists when we're looking at drivers, or is it just all in one bucket?
Yes, there is a breakdown that FDOT has of kind of drivers overall, as well as kind of an idea of tourists. I don't know how exactly that's figured out. My guess would be it's based off of probably rental cars at the airport.
That's what I'm just wondering, because if we're looking at people that come in want to use the Disney buses, and we do have lots of rental cars, but it would be interesting to know, are we serving the people that live in Orlando the way they need to be served? Are we looking at it globally because we have so many tourists that infiltrate use our roads and our systems? So looking over a 5-year plan, if we're looking at just the roads, are we looking at what we're trying to do for our community? Or are we looking at what we're doing to support the tourism industry? That's one of my questions in the planning.
I'd say it's kind of, region overall, because obviously people in the region are using the same roadways that the tourists are using. So you can't really focus on one group. We still have to travel I-4 and all the same corridors that they do to get to where we need to go.
Okay, thank you.
In adding to what you said, you all know I have a driverless car.
No.
There's significant funds for mass transit. The phenomenal thing for all of us is that within a few years, there's going to be massive, almost incalculable efficiency improvements in public transportation. That's going to drop the costs tenfold. So you're going to be able to have for the same money, at least 10 times the service that you've got now. And I agree with you. When that comes out, lots of people are going to get into the mass transit. It's going to change the entire equation because everyone is going to have access to transit wherever they want to go at an unbelievably cheap, affordable price.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hanlon. Ms. Favola?
Good morning. Thank you for your presentation. My biggest concern, and I think I've listened to what everybody had to say during this discussion, is that as planners, we need to plan for the future. And what I'm seeing every time I come into this room is we're only reactive and not proactive. We are not thinking outside the box. We're only putting patches on roads that are existent because of the usage. But if we don't go outside the box and start planning some sort of other transportation for people who visit the area, okay, and can commute that way, just as an example, okay, because I live literally in the middle of chaos near Disney. Okay, I live right off of 535 in Windermere. My road, the back of my house is 535. And just to come out of my house this morning, it was a game of Frogger. Okay. To get on the expressway on I-4, they now have reduced it to 1 lane. I don't know whose bright idea that was. And as a previous state trooper, whoever made that decision, I'm not sure what engineer said, we're just going to take 2 and put it down to 1. So I'm telling you right now that I live in that tourism chaos every day. And thankfully I'm retired and I don't have to do it every day. But if I had to go to work, I'd be one of those frustrated homeowners that live in my neighborhood or live in most of the neighborhoods out there, just like everywhere else. And if you got on I-4 today, Epic backed up the expressway right before the express lanes. So these are things that I notice, that I see through my eyes, because I worked on those highways. I know how traffic flows. And I worked, trust me, in the worst area. This is utopia compared to Miami I-95. Okay? But we are not thinking outside the box. We are only reacting and putting patches on roads instead of fixing the problem. And I think it needs to be addressed. And I think most of the people in this room tend to agree with me. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you.
A second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you so much. Our next item concerns approval of the prioritization project list. Mr. Slade Downs, will you present the information? Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to everyone. Like you just mentioned, going to be going over the final draft of the prioritized project list for this year. I know at our last meeting, I gave you a bit of background on the prioritized project list, the PPL, but for some of our new members, as well as anyone that wasn't at the last meeting, I'll give you a very quick background. So 3 of our core products or 3 of our core plans at Metro Plan Orlando. We have the MTP, Metropolitan Transportation Plan. It's our 25-year plan. We're kind of all encompassing for what we'd like to do in the region. The TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, which is Jason just touched on, the upcoming 5 years of projects with money allocated. The prioritized project list kind of acts as a bridge between those 2 plans. So we pull projects in from the MTP and looking at the 10 years following the TIP. These projects don't have money allocated to them yet, but it's kind of like the on deck circle where, okay, it's coming up. We're expecting some money soon. So let's get our resources together, get our ducks in a row, and make sure that when the money comes that we can hit the ground running. So that is how the PPL works in kind of our core products setup. And at our last meeting, came to you to ask for your feedback, as well as our other advisory committees and your input. Kind of what we've heard from you guys, as well as our technical partners. We had some updates to some cost estimates to projects, very minor updates, and as well as a few minor project limit changes, very, not a dramatic change in scope by any means. But the long and the short of it is that no changes were made to project rankings. Those those priorities stayed in the current order that they are laid out in the MTP. And those are kind of the main changes that we saw from the preview version to the current version. And short and sweet with that, I'm asking that you please recommend a motion to approve the PPL in its current form. And I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Do we have any questions?
Actually, one quick question. As a technology matter, is there any way that we can create the hypertext links on the screen in front of us so we can open up the presentations? Does anybody know how to?
Just go back to where you were.
Ms. Rachel?
Thank you.
Hold on one second. Ms. Rachel wants to speak.
Sorry, Miss Virginia will come and assist.
Okay, was that your question?
That was my question. Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Albaji?
That was an easy one for me.
Full agenda.
As always, thank you for providing us with all the resources as best as possible for our agenda. I did just want to share, Slade, I really appreciate that you guys talk about this connection between the MTP and the TIP and how the PPL is this bridge, right? Like, what are the projects that are on deck that move from this long-term planning into our next 5 years, and how often we revisit that TIP to ensure that we're, as much as possible, transportation is trying to meet the moment. I feel like one of the hardest things about this is that y'all don't control land use, right? Our cities continue to grow. As transportation tries to meet that demand, it's very hard when just development after development is going up. Well, the cost to meet the transportation needs for that doesn't necessarily connect. So just want to share. Thank you so much. I love the graphic. Shout out to the comms team for continuing to do better about explaining how these things work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, if there's no more questions for Mr. Downs, then I would like to ask for a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion for approval. Judy Pizzo.
I'll second Jeffrey Campbell.
Thank you. I have a first and a second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? This is a voice vote. All in favor say, oh, Mr. O'Hanlon. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
In order not to delay the meeting, you all know how I feel about this. Most of this is never going to occur because things are going to start changing so fast in the next 2, 3, 4 years. By the time we get to this, everything's totally different and this is not happening. But for the sake of the meeting, I will vote for it, even though I know it's not going to happen.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hanlon. And then I also have Miss Webster.
I just have a question. We keep talking about we need to invest more in transit. We need to develop our transit system so that it's more usable by choice riders as well as those who need it. And yet we keep approving these prioritized lists and these plans that do not include what we're asking for. So what is the appropriate route to do that?
Thank you, Ms. Webster. Is that going to be taken as a comment?
So I definitely hear what you're saying, and I feel like that sentiment is definitely reflected amongst the other members in the CAC. We do have a regional transit capital list as part of the PPL. Covers some projects like the Sunrail connection, the Sunshine Corridor, as well as links moving forward. Gonna turn it over to Alex because I see him here.
Yeah, I just want to, I'll answer your question short and sweet, and I think I've answered it, probably once over the past, 5 meetings at least. To see the substantial, to accomplish the transit vision and desire that this board and the feedback that our partners have under current technology, Mr. O'Hanlon, requires local governments to levy some type of dedicated tax. Those are available in the state of Florida to local governments, both in infrastructure sales tax and Charter County surtax. So the question is, why aren't we seeing it in a federalized document Because again, the Transportation Improvement Program, the prioritized project list focuses exclusively and intentionally based on federal and state law on federal and state funds. But to accomplish the transit vision, and the feedback that we hear from you is great. And we relay that to the board every month. So we take feedback on the documents and then we say, this is also what we're hearing. We want more of this, more of that, and where. But to answer your question, local governments must levy additional funds to accomplish the level of transit service that's required. Premium transit service is very expensive, and that typically goes well beyond the means of the federal government. And that's historically and likely moving forward. The federal government will help you for the first few years, called New Starts, Small Starts programs. But then the onus of that responsibility in perpetuity, both maintenance of the infrastructure and service delivery, is on our local partners. So there are not federal state dedicated funds to accomplish that. And as I've mentioned many times, that does require the will of our elected officials, but also based on Florida statute, the ballot box. So I
That's
mentioned,
exactly-
I know that's the
That's
solution.
exactly what I'm asking about.
And we have no control and are not
But
involved in the
Local
political process.
governments apply for funds through state and federal government. And a lot of times their programs are dictated by what's offered by the federal and state government. So who's going to make the first move to make this happen?
It would be local government initiating
But
the necessary local
government
match.
Tends to, I'll be quiet.
I just want to offer you guys the facts of the matter. You know, we hear you, but I think relaying that to your municipal elected officials, it would be most impactful. Those are our board members and they hear that and they have those discussions here, but that is not an action the Metro Plan or Orlando board would make, levying a county level sales tax or increasing it. That would be an action of a board of county commissioners in their chambers. For instance, Seminole County recently passed an infrastructure sales tax. The county had a vision, they had a project list, and that they levied additional resources to accomplish and to construct that infrastructure that they need. I know Orange County is also exploring that. They've explored it a few times with varying success. I know that's being explored and the county's having public meetings to kind of continue to better understand what the citizenry wants and what can actually be delivered. So I want you to know we hear you, but I also want to make sure this group is well aware of the process that has to occur, and why you don't see it in our plans is because of the local actions that are required prior to them being included in our documentation. So I just want to be really clear on that. Kind of going back to my chicken and egg, the federal government will be there for like 20%. You know, where is the local there for the 80? And I think, again, that requires additional resources. And as our partner, as our local governments are stretched thin on funds and exploring opportunities, that's something for them to take on. But Orange and Osceola have that opportunity, as does Seminole. It's Charter County sales tax, and it dedicates a portion of funds for regional transit service. So just want you to have the solutions. Because I hear you, and again, I don't, in no disrespect, I just want to make sure the group is well aware of what has to take place in what domain, and what's outside of our domain. It's really an action of our elected officials in their Board of County Commission. Our documents, though, as it relates to vision, plan, desires, those are all documented. Transit service here, there, light rail, high speed rail, but there's a missing component: funds. And as a requirement of the federal planning process, we have to develop cost feasible plans. We can vision and do wish lists, but we have to come back to what we can truly afford based on reasonably available resources. And that's what you see both in our transportation improvement program, an adopted approved budget by the state of Florida, but also the prioritized project list. What's next after we accomplish that? So more than you asked for, but again, I want to make sure you all leave here with a clear understanding of how this works.
Good morning, and thank you again for your time. You provided an amazing presentation last month, and greetings from Pine Hills. We have our new links station that's, I believe, getting ready to open, and it's very conveniently located to the Pine Hills Trail. correct me if I'm wrong, the trail conversation we had last month, that was during your presentation? Or I may have that incorrect. I apologize if
I
that's
believe,
incorrect.
so, yes,
I
yeah.
think so, okay. So I wanted to follow up on a question I had last month regarding like, when these projects do start to mature and we do start to see them come about, how do we grade if they're being used? Because like walkability, a vast majority of residents in the Pine Hills area, before they get onto the bus, they are pedestrians. We are crossing multiple lanes of very busy traffic to get to these things. And so a trail is something that we're very excited about. However, it is very difficult to use. So, and I know, again, everything comes back to money. So I'm very sensitive to that, and I'm very appreciative of things take time. But like, is there something that within this domain that we can use to like kind of be a litmus test or kind of grade like, okay, this was good, but we can't really grade it we can't give it an A because the residents can't use it because there's some kind of drawback, you know what I'm saying? Or I don't know if I'm asking the right question.
So for specific, I'm glad you said trail project, because Mike Wilson, our one of our planners, uses MyoVision technologies is what it's called. It's kind of a way of conducting bike and pedestrian counts on bike ped facilities, kind of spot counts throughout the region. And that is kind of one of the ways we have been able to use that technology is you can go out and take a count or a few counts at a spot, and then once a project is implemented, you can go back out and take one or a few more samples and compare. Excuse me. And so you can kind of get an idea of the impact from those studies. But I don't know, does that answer your question? Hopefully I didn't dance around it much.
No, it's not about dancing. It's just because again, I know there's certain decisions that aren't made here. So I just want to make sure that it's put on record that while I'm very pro trails, I want to make sure that trails are equitable, because I do, for example, I live in District 6 of Orange County, but I have a really great relationship with Commissioner Moore in District 2. And I know that trails are like a hot topic right now. Like we're seeing beautification, we're seeing investment, we're seeing money spent into it. I just don't want it to ever become a situation where, oh, I can tell what side of town you live on or what part you live on because can I use your trail or not? Like I see one trail, you got, tree cover, it's nice. The other trail you might get heat stroke on. And I think that's a real, you talk about prevention before cure. You talk about being proactive instead of being reactive. That's more so what I was talking about. So thank you for your answer. I think you did a great.
And I can also say, part of our prioritization formula, we take into account like transportation underserved areas as part of that formula. It's lots of kind of variables at play, but that's definitely one that adds into the weighting of kind of where how we determine the need for each project. Yeah.
Thank you for your. Sure. I'll wait. I like closing. Thank you for your presentation, but on Alex's comments, I tend to agree with Ms. Webster over there. And, I appreciate the lecture on how the process works. However, elected officials are exactly what they are, elected officials. This board, this Metro Plan partnership, okay, you guys could be here a whole entire lifetime and retire, and there could be 50 elected officials coming in and out of this region with all these different ideas. This is the board that governs what information should be given to these elected officials so they can make actual great decisions for their constituents. And so to throw it back on the elected officials is wrong and inappropriate. And I'm not defending one body or another, but I'm just saying you have the world in your hands right now. And this board right here is telling you, hey, we want to do this because this is where we live. You can have elected officials come from other areas and come in here and come become an elected official, and they never even lived here a day in their life. And the people that are here are the people that live in this community, operate in this community, function day to day, and they're the ones here telling you and begging you, hey, let's do this way. And I'm just not hearing that. And sadly, I don't want to be lectured on how elected officials work. I'm here because I care about my community, because I want traffic to be efficient, because I've worked in traffic day in and day out for so many years. I said, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I can go on 50 cruises and do whatever it is that I want to do. But no, I'm here. And the feedback I'm getting back is we're not on the same page, and we really need to be on the same page. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
We had our thoughts lined up. I have the same concern. I'm a new member, so I ask a lot of silly questions, but in my world, my professional world, I tell everybody no question is a silly question, because if you don't know, you don't know.
Agreed.
What I don't know is what we're doing here by approving things that we don't agree with. I mean, they're moving forward full steam ahead, but there needs to be some kind of process that I agree with you, that Metro Plan Orlando, because I can go back to Orange County and she can go back to Seminole County and he can go back to Osceola County, but this is the board that should be going back to them and saying, we're moving forward, but the community is telling us we're not moving forward the way the community wants us to. Because that's why we sit here once a month, right? Is to come in and tell you that. So I understand the process and it's multiple years that it gets funded, but the reality is we should be able to approve it with these contingencies, the technology, or that we would like to see a plan where Metro Plan Orlando has a cohesive feedback system to the elected officials that says, I mean, I can go and talk to my county commissioner, but if Metro Plan Orlando says to those bodies, this is what we're hearing holistically from our community, and bring them to a place of making different choices, I really think that that's what we need to see, is Metro Plan Orlando driving what is our transportation plan. Because I mean, and I know you are a little bit, but I just feel like the same way. I wrote down, how do you make sustainable change? Because I kind of fit like, yeah, I can approve this, but I don't necessarily agree with it. So how do we get there? How do we get to a place where, yes, that's federally funded, but I know we did that great meeting. I don't remember what it was. The first thing I did, the summit, which was fabulous. But do we walk away with that, with a plan or a recommendation, or like, how do we make change? How do we in this room, who is your community advisory council, help us make the change?
Yeah. I can definitely.
For our future, for our children's future. These elected officials, they're just there to be elected. They're not there, they're just there to move. You go from a federal item, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you go from a federal item to state, and then you throw it back on the locals, and it becomes a line item. It's not because that state official made it a line item. It's because the CFO of the city or of Orange County or the city or wherever it is that they put the line item in there, and they have to use the money accordingly. But if without the thought, it never happens. It's the chicken before the egg thing that you're saying about. This is where we're at. You guys have the world in your hands. You can make the difference. We're backing you up and telling you, listen, this is what we want. You can make the difference. But you got to be the governing board to push it through.
And to kind of touch on what you were saying as far as the outcomes of that MTP summit, that is being worked into our metropolitan transportation plan. That is kind of the guiding tool we're going to use to talk about some of the things that, we had great feedback. Thank you all for everyone who came to that, because that was some great input from you and also all our other advisory committee members. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I just went up. You know, you just put that up. Okay, then what, then with you, go, Ms. Pisa.
I'll reveal my ignorance a little bit, but what would happen if, this is my first meeting, so this is educational for me. What would happen if the concerns about this priority list were such that we didn't feel like we could vote in favor of it?
Well.
Would it stop? Would it, I mean, what would happen?
So as the community advisory committee, the motion is to make a recommendation to the full board. So you all are part of the advisory process to the full board. And since they are the elected officials, they're the decision makers. So I think the kind of the best I could tell you is that they would take it under advisement.
Yeah. So I would like Ms. Pisa to go next.
And if I don't comment,
Okay.
we're an advisory board. And there's gonna be a level of frustration, for one thing. I have to ask of all of you who are appointed by the various counties, do you report back to your counties? Hey, this was discussed, and this is what the board is very passionate about. This is what we want to see. This is what we want to hear. This is what we want to see move forward and done. As some of you, most of you, the newbies don't know, I was a transportation planner with the DOT before I retired and eventually got on the board here. I remember back in 2011, the state had worked tirelessly for a high-speed rail. We actually got federal funding for high-speed rail. It isn't like the feds throw a dart at the map and go, oh, you get money for high-speed rail. No, the state has to work and show and demonstrate and prove and jump through hoops. So we had that money coming to us. And the governor at the time said, nah, I don't want money from you. I'm trying to keep the politics out of it. That was very disheartening. That was very frustrating. Now we have private high-speed rail that is slowly trying to make inroads here. We can hope it continues moving forward. I think that was basically it. You have to look at who you're voting for. You have to let your elected officials, even those of us that aren't appointed here by various counties, encourage our fellow residents to get out there and let our elected officials know this is what we want, and vote the people in that are going to do what we hope to get done. That's my soapbox. I'm going to step down and turn it over.
And that's exactly was as well. Who are the elected officials here that are supposed to be taking these conversations back? And I agree with all of my members here and their frustrations. But thank you so much for your presentation. I do have to get a voice vote from everyone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any that are going to be opposed? So if no one is opposed, this carries out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will now move to the presentations. There are only one today. There is only one today. Remember that you can always send your questions to Ms. Horn, and she will get you the answer. She will get the answer for all of us. Our presenter is Ms. Taylor Laurent with the update of the Metro Plan, Transportation Plan, MTP or MTP. Thank you, Ms. Laurent.
All right, good morning.
So the 2050 MTP is the update to our long-range plan. So the TIP and PPL presentations you've heard this morning are based on the current, what's already been adopted, 2045 long-range plan. So everything that we're doing here today and we're going to be talking about is going to be used to help reset our prioritized project list and transportation improvement program for next year. So this is where I'm going to be asking you questions today and putting all the power in your hands. So with that, there are a bunch of handouts that were included in your agenda packets under section 4. If you haven't previously looked at those, I'd recommend pulling them up now. So you're ready for the discussion we're going to have today. So starting with the quick announcement, those handouts are all in reference to the second draft funding scenarios. These were curated based on the feedback we received at that April 2050 MTP Summit that we all attended, as well as the feedback that you provided to me, as well as our other advisory committees and board over the past few months to be able to create these second draft items for you to look over and provide your feedback on today. As you look at them, you will see that there are some fairly, oh, yes?
Miss Lauren, I'm sorry. Were there supposed to be packets here or is it just the screen in front of us?
It's on the screen in front of you.
Okay, thank you so much.
In the full agenda.
In the full agenda packet, yes.
Okay, in the full agenda. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, if you have any questions about any of those items, I do have a printout with me. I can answer questions as we go. I'm prepared just in case anything comes up. Okay. Section 4 of the PDF, yes. Mhm. All right, so with those handouts, you'll see some individual one-pagers for each of the scenarios. And then at the very end, what you'll likely want to have up and handy ready for reference are some comparative summaries by funding allocation. So the amount of money allocated to various modal categories, as well as a summary by outputs. What could we expect to see if each of these proposed scenarios were to be implemented? So we could look at what we would get out of each one. And we talked a little bit about funding this morning already. And we talked about this at our last meeting. So for our new members today, there are 4 primary types of funds that are included within the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Of those 4, there are state highway funds that are limited to be spent on the state highway system. That's about $54 million per year, with projects including roadway widenings, urban corridor improvements, operational solutions, our technology improvements, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, a myriad of project improvement types, but again, limited to the state highway system. The second bucket that you'll see on the screen is about $9.2 million per year, representing other federal funds for other roadway projects decided upon by the state and Metro Plan Orlando collaboratively. The third bucket, which is what we're going to be really focusing on today, are federal funds for MPO priorities, about $34 million per year. And those funds are used based on the funding policy that we're going to talk about today. So we'll come back to that in a minute. And then the fourth bucket of funds we've talked a little bit about today as well are those federal funds for transit improvements. Those are those formula funds based on annual performance by the transit agencies. So again, what we're going to talk about today, while all 4 of these fund types are included in the plan, we're specifically focusing on the MPO funding policy that applies to our third bucket right here, that $34 million per year. So with that, I mentioned I'm putting the power in your hands today. I have 5 questions for you. And based on your answers, that's going to help us determine what the funding policy that we're looking towards recommending later this year is going to look like and be curated towards. So are we ready for these questions? Okay, so as we go through, I'm going to read each one out loud one by one, and I'm going to look around the room for head nods, yeses or nos. I'm going to take tally of those. We'll move through all 5 questions, and then we'll open it up for comments and expanding upon your answers at the end of the presentation. Are we good with that? All right, so with that, our very first question. Let me get my notes page ready to go as well. So of the scenarios that were provided to you for review for today's meeting, should we continue to maintain a set aside for the high injury network countermeasure projects, so that safety category, or should those projects be recategorized and not include a dedicated funding for high injury network countermeasure projects. So I'm asking simply yes or no. Do we want to include that set aside? Or do we want to have those projects be recategorized in the funding policy? So I'm going to look around the room, starting to my right, looking for head nods of yeses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I counted about 9 for that, which would mean I'm going to be doing math on the fly. Oh, yes.
Can I make a suggestion? Why don't we put our placards up for yes?
I think that works wonderfully. How about we do that? Everyone who would like to say yes to that answer, go ahead and put your placards up. Wait a couple seconds there. Okay, thank you. That was an excellent suggestion. That gets me up to 16 out of 21 present here today. So next question is, there was a scenario that recommended, explored an option of our TISMO category, setting aside some funds for intelligent transportation systems projects. So this would be a slight change to that TISMO category of saying yes TISMO plus some ITS, or yes ITS plus some TISMO. It's really a minor change in how the implementation results come out of this. So if you'd like to say yes, please put your placards up. It looks like everyone beat me to that. So thank you. Let me go through and count. All right, so I'm seeing 9 placards up today. Thank you.
No.
Oh,
I'm
I've got a question.
Yeah, please forgive me. So no would be supported by the 2050 MTP.
Yes, so these same questions were asked to our 2050 MTP technical workshop group. So those are a lot of our staff members and advisory committee members from our technical advisory committee. Whew, that was a tongue twister today, apparently. And when they provided their feedback, we've included that on the slides here for your reference today, those were their answers to these questions. All right, any other questions? Okay, question 3. So this one is more of a nuance question. Under the active transportation category, we've already talked about and agreed to including a school mobility program within all active transportation scenarios. So that's what you've seen in your agenda packets. But there was a question about whether the rest of the funding under that category should be restricted to just trail projects or be left open for all types of active transportation improvements. So here's what I'm asking you today. Yes, should those funds be restricted to school mobility program and regional trail projects only? Or no, should they not be restricted to where we would have the school mobility program and all active transportation projects eligible for those MPO funds? So if you would like to say yes to the restriction, please put your placards up now. Otherwise, okay, that one's pretty unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to question 4. This one's also more of a nuance question. So we've mentioned that school mobility program, that will be included within all of our active transportation scenarios moving forward. So what we're asking today is, should that school mobility program, which is currently defined as being able to allocate MPO funding to support FDOT state routes to school projects, to be able to supplement those projects to keep them moving forward in the event that they could not, should we expand that program to also include areas of hazardous walking conditions to where the MPO could be able to start and initiate new projects in and around schools as well? So this is more of a, how should that program be defined and how should we be using those funds? A yes would be to say, yeah, that you would combine those two terms into a single program and expand the eligibility of projects under that. No would say that you would prefer to have those two programs separate, and that there would be one dedicated source of funding for those school mobility projects and a separate bucket of funding for those hazardous walking conditions. So if you'd like to say yes to include them as one all-inclusive program, go ahead and put your placards up. I'll count those. Okay, thank you very much. Then last question. There was a scenario, the very last one, that explored the use of MPO funding, so those federal funds, for widening and new roadway projects through the addition of a widening and new corridor category. So what we're asking today is, should that category be included? Or should widening and other significant roadway improvements, such as new corridor construction, be primarily addressed through that state funding opportunity? So that big red bucket that we had at the beginning of the presentation. So if you'd like to say yes to include that new category, please put your placards up. If you would prefer to have it not be included as an MPO eligible project and funded through other options, leave your placards down. So I'm going to go through and count the placards now. Okay. So those were my 5 questions. We made it through. Thank you very much for your feedback today. So based on my very quick tabulations, let me do this real quick. Yes. That would be no. That's a no. Okay, so going through that very quickly, kind of running down these very minor differences between our 4 proposed scenarios. Based on your answers today, your preference as a group is leaning towards the safety set aside scenario, based on all those answers that you gave today. So in a moment, when we open it up for a group discussion, I'm going to be asking, how do we feel about that? So based on your feedback today, we're going to be taking these answers, sharing them with each of our advisory committee meetings this week, as well as the board in 2 weeks, getting all the feedback on these same scenarios from everyone, sharing that feedback collectively, and then using the results of all of this feedback to create the 2050 MTP cost feasible plan. So that's where we're going to take that funding policy, apply it to the projects that have already been identified through the needs assessment process through the 2050 MTP, and bring back a preview of what that cost feasible plan looks like to you in late August at your next meeting. So with that, kind of in terms of the general schedule, we're right on track with getting this final little bit of few details buttoned up for the cost feasible plan, so we can bring that preview to you in your next meeting, and then ultimately adopt the 2050 MTP by this December. So thank you very much for your feedback today. This is very helpful, and thank you for letting me do math on the fly with you all this morning. So how do we feel about the results of this polling? Or does anyone have any other questions or items that they'd like to discuss?
Pull up and down, because that got our numbers correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't believe there's any questions on the table for you, Ms. Oren. Thank you so very much. That concludes our presentations. There are several items for consideration under general information and upcoming meetings.
If I could jump in here, I just want to remind you that your next CAC meeting is in August. We do not meet in July. So you note that we'll next be in this room together on August 27th.
Truly unfair. I thought I was gonna get a birthday cake. This is just so unfair. Okay, we are now at members' comments. Are there any committee members who have any final comments? Mr. O'Hanlon.
I'd like to address the concerns about public transit. And the concern about funding and availability. A massive change in all of those criteria is upon us. It actually started this past weekend. It's hard to imagine, and I know it's, you can't even imagine in this room. I cannot tell you how many times people that I've known and talked to about Tesla forever, they take one ride in my car and they just look at the car like it's freaking impossible that this car can drive 27 times safer than the average person. However, I experience that generally once or twice a week because I generally have various elected officials and everybody else that I take out in my car, and they all come back with the same thing. So what happened this past weekend? Well, these cars were finally set free in the city of Austin. Okay. So the media is going to say it's a complete failure and Waymo is light years ahead of Tesla. And I don't even care who wins the argument. Okay. Because what it gets down to is transportation for everyone that is unimaginably cheap. We have more than enough money that we're spending for public transportation today. And we'll probably solve all public transportation within 5 to 6 years. I originally thought it'd be 10, but technology is improving so fast. And I will grant you, I told you I've got an NDA with Tesla. I'm not even allowed to discuss a lot of this stuff. Okay. That is going to happen in 5 or 6 years. Okay. I just got a new Tesla, the same ones that are driving around in Austin with no drivers. And I just pressed the button to take me home. So the car knew where to take me. Okay. And it's like 125 miles to my house. And then the little blue button comes up. It says press and hold for 3 seconds. So you're not accidentally touching the button. And then the car backed out, started driving around and drove me all the way to my house. Most boring drive of my freaking life. Okay. Because the car forces you to look out the freaking windshield at least once every 30 seconds. Okay. So it's very difficult to get a lot of work done while the car is driving. And it took me down I-4 through, I don't know if you remember this past weekend, the unbelievable freaking storms. Okay. And unbelievable traffic because it's I-4. Okay. I did nothing, just sat there, just bored off my kazoo. So I started going through my phone, playing some of my favorite music. I didn't know what to do because I'm still not allowed to watch YouTube videos and whatnot on my screen. That I'll be able to do in December, because in December, that goes live in the state of Florida. And probably by the end of next year, this goes live across the entire country. Okay. So what's happened to transportation in China? Well, you're already allowed to do this in China. So the cost has fallen through the floor. So believe it or not, even with all this great stuff in America, we're actually second to China because there's so many regulations preventing it and slowing it down. That's okay. It's still coming here anyway. Okay. So where's all of this headed? Right now, there are no self-driving buses. Beep is an embarrassment. Okay. Don't even talk to me about that piece of crap. Okay. I'm talking about you get rid of all of these polluting diesel buses within probably 3 or 4 years. Now that Tesla's program is live, people are going to come to Tesla and buy the self-driving technology. And pray to God, they start off by producing 10 and 20 passenger electric buses. They replace, Lynx is gone because they're so far behind, they'll never catch up. We'll have a total new transportation system with these buses, not coming every half an hour, coming every 3 minutes. Unbelievable change is coming. Okay. I'm driving it. I know it's there. I know it's going to happen. I've got privileged information. We need to be preparing for that. And all of these vehicles are going to drive on our current roads. Now, when there's sufficient quantities of them, the distance between cars, as opposed to being 70 or 80 feet, is going to be 5 or 6 feet because they all talk to one another and you can cram lots more vehicles with 0 accidents on the road. You know, we have our safety moment and that is phenomenal. And we will change some things here and we will improve that a little bit. This will eliminate it. Okay. And it's not that far off. It's already starting in Austin this past weekend. You know,
Mr. O'Hanlon, thank you so much. And thank you for everything you bring with the Tesla and the upgrade of all of that, because I know a lot of us are not aware of what's going on in the world. So thank you. I have Miss Heath. Ms. Heath first. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I don't speak a lot at these meetings. I still take a lot in, so I'm a little nervous when I speak, so please bear with me. In relationship to some of the construction updates, item 10, letter A. I work with one of the Main Street communities here in downtown Orlando. I am the executive director of the Soto Main Street District. And we just went through a 3-year infrastructure project that first started with OUC, improving a 100-year utility project, followed then by an FDOT overlay that just concluded this spring. And I just want to compliment our DOT partners on getting that project done very quickly, surprisingly far quicker than our utility infrastructure improvement went. I found our DOT partners to be excellent, responsive, took my calls even on weekends to mitigate impact to residents and small business owners, as well as the hospital in that community. Soto, as a follow-up, is now coming alongside that and will be beautifying that area and softening a fairly harsh area of a DOT, and it's not super community friendly and walkable at the moment. We're going to be redoing all of the electric signal cabinet boxes. So if you haven't driven through the area, know that we are following behind and wanting to soften that space and beautify it now that it is safer for everyone in our community. And I just thought that that might be something that you all would have interest in hearing. Some good news stories and our relief that that is concluded and that we're now going to have a bit more of a safe space where our water and our utility will be a little safer this hurricane season, and then a nicer road for ideally everyone to enjoy.
Missy, thank you so much. We appreciate that. And we appreciate hearing, what you're doing in the downtown. Thank you so much. Ms. Rump? Oh, you changed your mind?
I did. Maybe I want to comment about the interchange of Sand Lake Road and Kirkman Road, that new interchange. And Mr. O'Hanlon probably would say, well, when the self-driving cars come about, then I won't have that problem. But I was leaving I Drive one evening, and I took Sand Lake Road, which I normally does. And before they open up the new ramp from Sand Lake Road, I'm going east on Sand Lake Road, and I'm going to take my exit to Kirkman Road. Before you open that up, you had to go down to almost Tangelo Park and make a U-turn and then take it. So the other night, I was taken in, and several of us made the wrong turn. I have never, I'm gonna say the word never, made the wrong turn exiting on an incoming ramp. It was about 3 of us that did that. I panicked. So I don't know if I need to drive in the daytime, if the way that loop is set up, but it's dangerous. And so after Mr. O'Hanlon spoke, I said, maybe I shouldn't say anything, because he would say that if I had the Tesla, it would not have went down the wrong way. But that's 5 years down the road right now. I'm talking about today. But that was not a good experience. So, and after you made your positive comment, but that was a bad experience for me the other night to exit off an incoming ramp. And thank God it was in nighttime, no other cars was coming. So the 3 of us had an opportunity to do that U-turn and go back, and that was scary. But go ahead. Thank you for that time.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Mueller?
Thank you. I am going to jump on the O'Hanlon train right now. If he's the, if he is the driver, I am the guy shoveling the coal. So, here's what I actually looked this up before you started talking. So this was in the middle. I keep pretty close track on what's going on in the autonomous vehicle area in industry, and I'll just give you some information. Active commercial services for robotaxis Phoenix, Waymo, San Francisco, Waymo, Los Angeles, Waymo, Austin. He mentioned Tesla. Waymo's already there. They've got about, I think Tesla's got about 14 or 17 I think is the number right now, but it's increasing. Atlanta's got Waymo. Miami's testing, Ann Arbor, Michigan's testing, Peachtree Corners, Georgia, Las Vegas, San Diego. All of these places are turning on quickly and fast. And the way I see this going is within a very short time. I live in a subdivision and I can't catch a bus, right? Because they don't come in there, right? But I can call a robotaxi and I can have it take me to the store. And I think that what we're going to see is people not opting to buy cars. I don't know what that's going to do to dealerships down the road, but they better start thinking, because they may not be selling cars to people as much as they are to robotaxi companies, whether they're electric or gas, I don't know. But I just see subdivisions being built with no driveway, no garages in the future. And all people are doing is calling a car to take them here or take them there. So just bear in mind, we hear a lot from Mr. O'Hanlon over there. Exactly. So just know that this is coming, and it is coming very, very quickly. And we're going to see this here. The reason it's not in Orlando yet is because we don't have the greatest roads. The reason they have it in Austin, Los Angeles, and all these places is because they're grids. They're set up in grids. We got roads that are like a spaghetti factory. Okay. So anyway, just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you so much. If there's no more, oh no, Mr. O'Hanlon must have left that up. Okay, this brings us to the second opportunity for public comments. Oh, no problem. Come on in. I know he was, but he thought something.
So, my colleague buddy Anthony just went up and going to a base station like me. That's relevant because I got all these people in the country coming down to Florida. They all told me, wow, Florida's got such great roads in great condition. Good job, FDOT. Keep up the great thing for our roads.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hanlon. Thank you. All right, so that brings us to the second opportunity for public comments. Comments heard at this point in the meeting are more general in nature and similar to the first. Comments may be made in person or online. Members of the public joining us virtually who wish to speak will use their raise hands feature on the Zoom screen. If attending by phone, you are to hit *9, raise your hand, and request to be recognized. When you're called, staff will unmute your microphone and we will ask you to state your name and your contact information for the record. Is there anyone wishing online to make a comment, Ms. Rachel or Ms. Lisa?
There are no hands raised online, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in person?
No comments received.
If there are no further business, our meeting will be adjourned at 11:24. Thank you so much for all coming.
So no July meeting. What are we going to do?
No July meetings.